Well, welcome to Hello Chaos, a weekly podcast talking to founders and entrepreneurs, listening to the ahas and the oh shits. Today we have Lynn Power. She is the co-founder of Masami and founder of the Conscious Beauty Collective shop, and where she has vested and invested in the beauty industry. Thank you, Lynn, for coming on and chatting with us about your founder journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This will be fun.
This will be fun. I love talking to founders and of different industries, different, life stages and company stages. But just start us out and telling us about what inspired you to start your own company, especially in the very competitive beauty space.
I know, right? I'm crazy. I think that's the answer. But other than that, I'll give you the short-ish answer. I worked in advertising for 30 years, almost 30 years, 29 and change.
Welcome to the club. I'm a 30-year veteran in the marketing and advertising space. So
there you go.
There you go. It's
So I loved most of the time, except the last 4 years were torture. I was the CEO of an agency that no longer exists, J. Walter Thompson.
Yeah.
Right, of the New York office. And I was not enjoying my life anymore. It was a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of legal, a lot of finance meetings, very painful finance meetings, no offense to the finance people out there. But I just decided I wanted to get back to doing what I loved and why I got into the business in the first place, which is building brands and using creativity as a business tool. And I had just gotten far removed from that. And I think a lot of people think that being a CEO is super glamorous, and I'm here to tell you it's really not.
It's not.
It depends. I suppose, like CEO of your own company, maybe, but when you have a lot of, I work for a big holding company with shareholders and lots of executives above me, and it was not all that it's cracked up to be. So,
well, especially if you got into the advertising game because you wanted to use creativity. And
exactly.
And then you become, oh my gosh, I'm just looking at P&Ls, or I'm just dealing with like managing boards, upstream management, downstream management. You lose the passion
HR,
and the fun. HR,
lawsuits, all kinds of fun things. If you've ever been deposed, you'll know the torture I'm talking about. But anyway,
I do. Yes.
Yeah, that's a day in my life I never want to relive. But yeah, so there we go. So I was basically just I was just like every day dreading, going into work, and it was after some time I just realized, why am I doing this? This is crazy. I just need to get out. And I had done everything in advertising, and there was really nowhere else for me to go. So I wanted to get back to what I love, building brands, and I met my co-founder, James. Well, actually, I had started a consulting business where I was working with startups, and that was fantastic because I really felt like I could see an immediate impact in the work, as opposed to when you're working with large clients in the agency world. Stuff takes like a year to 18 months, sometimes 2 years for them to cycle through all the approvals and all that stuff. And by the time it launches, it's like not even relevant anymore, right? So it's sort of frustrating. So now I found myself in a position where I was working with startups and seeing like stuff happening very quickly. But then I met my co-founder, James, who'd been working on our formulas for almost a decade.
Wow.
And he had worked at Clairol for about 20 years. And he's not a chemist, but he has a very good instinct for ingredients and what he wants the products to look and feel like. And so he had gotten them about 80% there. And I was highly skeptical because I'm like, this one dude has really come up with something. I doubt it. And I'd worked in a lot of beauty. So to kind of go back to your why beauty, I launched, actually created an agency for Clinique to do all their global TV. So we actually created a little mini agency for them.
Wow.
I did all of L'Oreal's hair products. I launched Gillette's, a whole bunch of their products, including Venus and including a lot of their men's grooming products. I've worked on Vichy and Nexus and all sorts of stuff. So I've always loved beauty. I love that it's this blend of emotional and rational. And it's something I enjoy too. So I enjoy it. So when I met James, it just sort of clicked. He had almost had formulas, but he didn't have anything else. He didn't have a brand. He didn't have an idea of how to launch it. He doesn't have any kind of business acumen. So we decided to partner together and launch Masami, and that was how that happened.
And I love your story, and I think we have a lot of similarities in our career path with advertising. But, as you started getting into this space and starting these companies, what have you discovered about yourself in your journey?
Oh my gosh, so many things. And I started the business, let's see, it was 2020. I was 53.
Oh, yikes. Starting
So, yeah.
2020. Yeah. Good for you.
So we launched, so we decided to do the business in 2018. It took us about 18 months to get everything done, come up with a brand name, packaging, website, our business strategy, all that stuff, go-to-market strategy. And then we launched at New York Fashion Week in February of 2020. So,
wow.
it was a month before COVID lockdown, obviously. And so the first thing I learned about myself is I'm very impatient, and I had to learn shit happens, and I had to pivot, and we couldn't get into salons. A lot of my business plan involved salons, and I had to throw that
Which
out
those
the
were all
window.
closed down, and yeah.
Yep. And so that was the first lesson. And that was fine because everyone was dealing with it. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? It's like you make the best of it. And I really try hard to be a positive person and to look at, glass half full, right? Like it's all good. So we started doing brand partnerships that year with other beauty brands that I had met that are in New York, and I was living in New York at the time, and that worked great, and we were able to grow our business organically just by partnering and doing stuff with other brands. So that was all chugging along. But then I got breast cancer in 2021.
Wow.
So that was my next lesson, was basically like, oh shit, now I had my story is I tell it because it's actually, for a lot of women, kind of terrifying. I had had a clean mammogram and ultrasound in February or March of 2021, and by June I had an 8-centimeter tumor that's about this big.
Oh my goodness. So you could, literally you could physically feel it, and you're like, this is not right.
So I had a very rare kind of cancer. It's less than 1% of all breast cancers, called metaplastic. So it doesn't present as the same kind of tumor. So actually what happened is I woke up and I had a ping pong ball size.
So you're thinking it's like a cyst or something. Yeah.
Well, my lymph node had just blown up overnight, literally overnight, to the size of like a ping pong ball. Like it was all of a sudden, like literally was nothing. And then overnight. And then I went to my OBGYN, who's like, that doesn't, she was actually, I had gone to her for 20 years, New York City. And she said, I think it's from the COVID vaccine. She was very almost dismissive. And honestly, I would not be sitting here if I'd listened to her, because she could not have been more wrong. And she wanted me to wait and see. Wow. She's like, well, let's just wait and see what happens. But if it grew that fast in 3 months, and I was stage 3 when they told me, yes, you have cancer, and it's stage 3.
So you demanded a biopsy. You're like, no. Somebody needs to go and check.
I actually, my friend had breast cancer a year before me, and she's a nurse practitioner. So she told me that day, she's like, I don't believe that. I don't think it looks good. So I got an appointment 4 days later at a breast center at Bay State in Springfield. I was living in the Berkshires, and they took literally one look at it, and they go, that doesn't look good. that's probably cancer. So I knew from the beginning. And then it's a month long of biopsy. And then they're like, oh, and we found a second thing. And oh, and now there's something in your other breast. And oh, now, so it was just like, now you have to have another scan. And so it's a good 4 to 6 weeks between you feeling like something's going on to them being ready to treat you.
Right.
And they were fast tracking me. I was like every 2-3 days going in for some other kind of thing. And so I was stage 3 when I started chemo. So had I waited another month, it probably would have been stage 4.
Right.
And I would have probably been dead. So
Wow.
that is just a lesson in trust your instincts and don't necessarily
Right.
take.
You know your body. You know your
Yeah.
body.
And I also think, my husband likes to say, there are a lot of doctors who are C students. Not everybody was at the top of their class. Not everybody got,
That's right.
not everybody paid attention during that particular class that they took,
That's right.
So that's just the reality of healthcare. And it is kind of surprising because I trusted this doctor. I went to her for 20 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, the podcast is not about that. It's the fact that suddenly I found myself in a situation where I had to really think about what to do with the business, which was a baby. I had just launched it before. And I was a bald hair care founder for a good 9 months because I went right into chemo, surgery, radiation, and
all of that.
and I literally felt like the universe was laughing at me because I'm like, seriously, I launched a hair care brand and now I'm bald. Like, are you kidding me? Not only was I bald here, but I had no eyebrows, I had no eyelashes. So I really looked like an alien or a turtle. And I couldn't even do this. I couldn't even do like a Zoom. And there's still COVID going on. So like it was all a mess. But that was also like a lesson in control because I tend to be more type A.
Yeah.
And a lesson in like, you have to focus on the things that matter. And also not listening to what the industry tells you. We started this podcast or our conversation before you hit the record about talking about different types of founders. If you just read what's out there, you'll think, oh my God, if I don't 10x my business in 2 years, I'm dead. That's a disaster. But I'm here to tell you that is BS. If you set your own goals, we don't have investors. I don't have anyone breathing down my neck.
Right.
And that has turned out to be a blessing. But if we're growing, even if it's $1 year over year, I'm happy. I'm like, we're growing, It doesn't have to be this crazy, insane goal that you feel that you have to live up to because that's what the media and the industry and the VCs are telling you,
Right. Because they're looking at it from, ooh, this is what we want because that's what they want to invest in. But you're right. There's, so many other ways to grow. You can grow, bootstrap organically. You can go and get your own loans. You don't have to get into the business of the pitch whirlwind, where just put that time, money, and energy in growing your business and setting your up. Because also every business is different. Every founder, the way their vision and their goals are different. The marketplace is different for everybody and what you're doing. So, if you gotta kind of get that noise out and stay focused. And I applaud you for everything. I mean, like, I can't even imagine that the starting the business. And you're right, it is a baby. When you start a business, it's truly like you've birthed a child that you've got to nurture and you've got to take care of. And there's different phases and stages as it ages. But then getting struck with and then all of that energy and mental focus kind of gets diverted. And the fact that you kind of stay true that should be celebrated and should be an inspiration to other people.
Well,
and I think the way you looked at it was like, look, it's just another, it's not it's not a failure. It's like we can't control everything, but we control how we respond and how we
Right.
react. And you did it with grace. I mean,
Well, look, I'm a very pragmatic person. So I just was kind of like, okay, what is the stuff that I want to stop focusing on? And what is the stuff I want to do more of? And what, and really kind of have that time to think about that. Cause I mean, I would go in these chemo sessions that were like 6 hours long. I had
Ugh.
4 different types of chemo, and there's no Wi-Fi in the hospital. Like hospitals are so backwards still. So you just have to, and I would never
Just
bring a
think.
book or anything. So you just have to think. And I never, ever have time to just sit and think. So in a way, that was one of the blessings of cancer, is that, yeah, it forces you to kind of slow down and think about that and think about what matters and figure out. So I stopped doing a lot of the things that you're told you're supposed to do, like Facebook ads and I really leaned into the brand partnerships, which gets to the next part of the story, which is a
Yeah.
conscious beauty collective, because my thought process was, okay, those really work to grow my business organically, but I was only doing 1 or 2 at any given time, right? And I would do everything from, a giveaway, a bundle, like a gift holiday bundle, a live stream, a blog post, however we could think to partner. So I thought, well, if I could scale that and do like 30 or 40 at once, then I'm getting somewhere. And I also love working with other founders. Like that's really fulfilling for me. So that's how the Conscious Beauty Collective was actually born. And we launched our first pop-up. And the idea was to also help all of us get retail space. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyway, retail was starting to open up. We wanted to get back into, physical locations.
Right.
So we did our first pop-up in San Francisco in 2022. I was just coming out of my treatment. So I had like my hair was like this short. But it was great. And that was kind of what led to blowing that thing out into a whole thing. And it's really taken on a life of its own now. It's really crazy how much that has driven my business and a lot of other founders' businesses.
Did that surprise you? Like, was that the expectation, or were you like, whoa, I thought this would just kind of, go this way, and it pivoted somewhere organically, somewhere different?
So when I launched it, my idea in my head was we had 32 brands actually in the first pop-up, and my whole thing was, we're just going to do pop-ups. We're just going to move from city to city because that's a great way to get some retail exposure. And so we did San Francisco, and then we moved to Boston, and then we moved to Southern California. We were doing these pop-ups, but the founders kept asking me for more. Oh, could we also do like some Instagram stuff and content, and could we also do some trade shows together, and could we also do, what about a magazine? Hey, what about this? What about that? So before I know it, I'm doing all this other stuff. So the Conscious Beauty Collective, yes, we still do the pop-ups. And actually, I got smart. Instead of doing our own pop-ups, now we go in and do curated shelves in other people's stores. So we have 8 of them right now, and I'm launching about 2 a month.
Nice.
I have more stores that want it than I have bandwidth to launch, but that's a good problem.
Right.
So yeah, but so now we do those, but then we also have a lot of co-marketing programs where we have a digital magazine, we do a whole tons of like content and sharing, and we do a master class where we share what's worked, what hasn't worked on very specific topics, whether that's Amazon or SEO or Pinterest or whatever. We do a lot of collaborations across multiple other events, trade shows, etc. I mean, it has taken on a life of its own, and it's been incredible. So now the latest iteration is we just set up a GoFundMe page as the Conscious Beauty Collective, because 2 of our brands, Adora Therapy, her headquarters is in Asheville.
They're like, we're right there. Yeah,
I was going to say, you know where I'm going with
that's
this.
right.
She opened a store in Miami, which we are in. So she was dealing with the fallout of Hurricane Helene, and she lost half her warehouse, and
Ugh,
her employees are homeless and all this stuff. And now she's bracing for Milton,
Milton. Oh my goodness.
supposed to hit today. So she's dealing with that. And then another one of our founders was based in Treasure Island, Florida, which is near St. Petersburg on the West Coast. She got pummeled, similar story, but in this case, her home was completely flooded, destroyed. She had to evacuate, and then she lost almost all of her inventory as well.
Wow.
Now, what people don't realize is that insurance doesn't cover this.
Right.
They have a clause that if it's a natural disaster, guess what? And I'm like, well, then what's the insurance for?
Right.
Do you really think somebody's going to go in there and steal your products from your garage or warehouse? Like, it's kind of crazy that this is not covered. And so
Right.
these founders are really struggling just to keep their businesses afloat right now. So we
Right.
just set up a GoFundMe. If anybody's interested, hit me up and I can give you the info on that. But it's just so our community. My point is the Conscious Beauty Collective is way more.
It's like it's
than
just continuous innovation.
It's continuous innovation for small businesses to join forces and grow. That's what we do, and it could be lots of different ways. But it's also a community that supports and helps each other. That's
Right.
the heart of it. And so when one of us, is struggling like that, we will step in and do what we can.
That's right. I love it. So what? So I mean, that seems like that'd be totally totally rewarding. But is that the most rewarding aspect of your journey, or have you found something else that you were like, this feeds my soul?
Well, I do love working with the other founders. That to me is super, super rewarding. Most of them. Every now and then I get a bad one, but we won't talk about that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. But I will say, like, what really does feed my soul is when people use my products and they talk about how it's completely transformed their hair and it's given them confidence that they didn't have. Because a lot of people hate their hair and they don't know why. They don't understand that if it's frizzy, if it's dull, if it's unhealthy, if it breaks, it's usually because it's not hydrated well. And the products on the market that you buy, unfortunately, in a lot of the mass channels have sulfates or have ingredients that are actually, they're going to temporarily solve it, but they're going to create a vicious cycle where it's never really going to solve it, and you're never going to be really happy. So that to me gives me so much, motivation. And it's just very rewarding when people are like, oh my God, like you have no idea. Like I hated my hair for 30 years and now this is the first time I actually feel like I have good hair.
Right. So if you had to sum up your journey in one word, what would that word be and why?
Well, I think based on everything I've told you, I think you'll agree, unpredictable. That would be my word.
That's a good one. I don't think we've ever had that word. But you're right. That is
Totally unpredictable. And I think though, like I have my own things, but I think every founder has that.
Oh.
And it could be smaller things that are unpredictable, like all of a sudden your shipment doesn't show up and you have to go, wait, it's stuck in a port, or now I can't get this product or the ingredient that I thought I could get. And so
or
I'm
my
gonna have to
manufacturer for my packaging is not the right one, or
But it's a lot of stuff that's out of your control. So that's why unpredictable, because if you could plan it out and control it, yes, great,
right.
awesome. But so much of our journey, unfortunately, it's not in your control. And if you're like me, a kind of a type A person, that is a lesson you have to learn, is to just sort of let things flow and just
Let it go.
be in the moment
And
look at the bright side.
And you work with founders. I work with founders and CEOs of company. The other thing, it's like the unpredictableness of the market. How are consumers, or how is your audience actually reacting and responding to your product? Is it a right market fit? Did what you have that you're like, no, this is what we're unique in, and you find, well, they don't really give a shit about that. So you have to, you might have to pivot a little bit, but yeah, there is some of that. I think that is a good word for any founder, because you need to be ready, because there's going to be a lot of
Be ready.
the ahas and that oh shit moment of I was not prepared for that.
And now, like, look at what we were just talking about, hurricanes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I mean, one of the founders grew up in Tampa and was telling me that the hurricane now, Milton, which is supposed to be squarely aimed at Tampa,
Yeah.
Tampa has not had a hurricane like that in 150 years.
Ugh.
It's crazy. So, like, here we are dealing with stuff that's never happened. Like, this has been in
Well,
our
not
lifetime.
in our
This
lifetime,
is
but
not,
also I know we're getting off on a hurricane tangent, but we felt it. We're right in the tucked under the Blue Ridge Mountains, so Asheville's like 40 minutes from us. We got hit hard from our community, but we're also very worried. Listening to the meteorologists and stuff, like this hurricane is because of climate change and global, all that is feeding storms and creating storms that we've never seen in our
correct.
lifetime. Like, they're just going to get more aggressive. And yeah, we're I've got a friend that's like right in the path, and she's like, I don't even know. Florida of any state is very like the architecture, the building, all the infrastructure. They have all those materials that are supposed to withstand hurricane winds and stuff. But she was like, we've never had hurricane winds. If this hits, 160, 175, she's like, that's never been tested before.
Right.
So
It is truly like unprecedented, some of the stuff that we're
yeah,
dealing with. So it's tough, but when you're an entrepreneur and you're sort of, your inventory is on the line and that's another level.
right. Or
It's tough.
or if you have retail or physical assets and inventory, but also people, like you as a
Yeah.
founder and owner, you feel responsible for your employees and their livelihood and their families, and it becomes it's not just okay, I can deal with. You're dealing with so many other layers that are sitting on the backs and shoulders of these
That
small
is
business owners.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely true.
Well, my goodness. So I don't even know if I should even, because I feel like you've already answered it, but maybe not. What's been like your biggest, oh shit, like your biggest challenge? I
Um,
can't imagine anything greater than breast cancer. I just
I
like,
mean,
I
that
can't even
was,
imagine that.
yeah, that was a challenge. But I'll take it to more pragmatic that other people can relate to. A lot of there's a fly in here. Okay, I would say no. I would say just the mundane things like cash flow.
Yeah.
That is a cash flow, customer acquisition, like those things as a small business, and you're trying to grow a healthy business are not easy.
Right.
All right, I have to open the door so the fly gets out. Give me 2 seconds.
Go ahead.
It's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to be swatting it for the rest of the time.
I know.
Okay, hopefully that will do it. But
No, that's
yeah,
great. And I love your paint. I love the painting behind you. That's
yeah,
that
that
is
is a
super
Justin
cool.
Bauer. He's an LA artist. I love him. Look up his work. Does incredible stuff, and it
That
reminds
is
me.
super cool.
It's sort of like technology meets humanity in my.
Yes.
That's why I
And
like it.
Chandler,
But
our
anyway,
producer, he's like, he loves the egg chair.
oh yeah, the egg chair is. It's usually where my dog will be sitting. But anyway, so yeah, I would say challenges like just when you make physical inventory, every time I need to make more products, it's like $50,000.
Yeah.
So if you don't plan well, because when you're a small business, you don't have $50,000 sitting in the bank.
Right.
You just
Right.
don't.
No.
So that is one of the number one reasons businesses fold is because they run out of
Cash flow.
cash and they
Yeah.
don't anticipate. And so that's tough. So I would say that's a huge challenge, and it's for us an ongoing challenge because again, we don't have investors, we don't have a lot of capital or access to capital. And then customer acquisition costs are really hard too because they keep for digital businesses, they keep
Yep.
rising. And for when you're small, you don't have thousands to pour into Instagram ads and TikTok ads to get your business.
Right.
So anyway, so that's why I think like doing podcasts, doing your own content, doing all these collaborations, those are all things you can do that high ROI, don't have to spend a lot of money.
That's right.
Um,
You're
and
because you're doing demand gen, right? You're creating that content to get people to get that longer. Where a little digital banner ad's not going to do it, or a Facebook ad's
the
just not
digital
going to do
banner
it.
ad is
Yeah.
not going to do it,
Yeah.
even though people may tell you otherwise. And that's the other annoying thing as a founder, the amount of emails I get
Ooh.
from companies claiming to 10x my business in a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
It is insane, the
Well,
empty
the
promises.
the empty and the shams. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
our Orange Whip's sister company is Bright Marketing. I mean, that's the company I founded, 12 years ago, 11 years ago. Whatever, over 10 years ago. And our industry, I'm like, you're talking about the advertising and marketing. This industry, I swear, it's like we're in crisis because people don't understand the difference between branding, marketing, advertising, and how to plan. But the amount of bad actors that have entered our space of just
Absolutely.
pure junk, like junk, of these lead gen companies that are based in AI. I mean, I've tried to test them as a founder to go, look, it's a bit like, well, if you can do that, I can partner with you and maybe we can offer this to our clients, but I want to see if you can do it for our business. So, for several, like we started testing, I'm like, these are scammers. And
Yeah.
then, when we take on a new client, we're usually hearing from like the CEO of the company who are like, I'm trying to get out of these like 2 or 3 contracts. And we're looking at these going, you're paying a lot of money and you got nothing.
Yeah.
And these are national big big agencies that are purely just scammers. I mean, they've sold you a service and they're spitting out a report and it is junk, junk, junk. And that's been my kind of ahas on the as the CEO of the marketing agency I've loved this space. I mean, I've been in advertising and I came out of school for it, and it breaks my heart truly to see how bad our space has gotten. And now when
It's
we go and pitch, it's like marketing is a bad word. A lot of small business owners, but not even just like mid-size, we work with companies that are 200 million and plus, and they're like, I hate marketing. I don't like working with agencies because they've been
agree.
burned. They have been burned, or they don't know
It's
how to navigate. I mean, it's just, yeah.
it's
So I could
so
go on a whole
hard. No,
soapbox on that.
I've been on both sides. It
Yeah.
is not easy. And my son now works in advertising. And so he's a data scientist, a little different than what I did, but it's
Yeah.
still like he's on that side of it. But one of the things that the Conscious Beauty Collective does, as I mentioned, we've morphed into this community. Whenever somebody is ready to hire an agency, marketing agency, they will check with the other founders. And I
Oh,
will tell
that's
you,
fantastic.
9 times out of 10, there is a horror story of
Oh,
another founder going, oh my God, do not hire them. Do not fall for
right,
that. They will tell you shit. It's not true. So
right,
it is shocking. Like there are very few that make the gauntlet where people go, yes, they're great. We love them. Hire them.
right.
It's very rare. So to find the ones that are good, they are gold. And like, you want to hang on to those because
That's because you need them. Like
you need them.
we need
Yeah.
to elevate. We need to fix our marketing industry. Like, that's my
Well, it's just become like people used to say used car salesman, that's what it
yes,
feels like these days. Like so many people kind of, and they take advantage of the fact that, if you don't know SEO and you don't know all the back end
right.
terms and words and all that stuff, they just anyway.
Yeah,
We could
I know. Or like
probably
I try to get on the, I try to, I get on the topic of why are you so focused on SEO? Where's really the friction in your business? Like, do you really need to spend your limited time, money, and resources doing something that might not be a priority to get you
right,
to your goals in the next 30 to 60 or 90 days? Let's really prioritize and focus on where's the rub. And a lot of times I was like, oh, I was told I have to do SEO. And it's like, no, if you only have so much money and you've
right.
got other things that you've got to do, it might be important, but there might be, and I think that's where this clutter of misinformation has gotten in of, well, I have to do this. I'm not denying that SEO isn't important. I just think that it's not always the most important place to spend money for, especially if you're trying to scale and grow at an aggressive space. So, yeah.
I'm with you, but it's so interesting. I had an SEO agency tell me the other day that, oh my God, how can you spend money on other things if you don't have your house in order, as in the SEO sort, So
Right.
it's like everyone has their way of like trying to,
I know.
it's very difficult.
It
So
is. It's hard to, I mean, I feel for the business because it's really hard to navigate. It is a lot of charlatans.
yeah, sadly.
Uh, so let me ask, so what's something that you really like about yourself that you wish other people recognized more?
Um, well, I have boundless energy. People do recognize that actually, so it's not something that people don't recognize, but I have learned to really appreciate. So actually there's two things that I was really bad at when I was my daughter. My kids are 23 and 21,
Okay.
and I can run circles around them.
Ah,
Like like literally.
right.
But two things is
We're
that
built differently, though. We're built differently. We're,
I think,
our
well, yeah, I
generation
think
was built
I was gonna
differently.
say there is a generational thing for sure about like work ethic and just, but I will say like I used to procrastinate. I was not great in college. I would wait until the last minute. And I don't procrastinate now at all. I don't know how I learned, but I am very like on it. I get stuff done almost immediately. And if I don't, I have too many other things that'll just sort of go by the wayside.
Right.
But the other thing, so I'm very like in that sense, like productive. I'm a high productive, get stuff done kind of person.
You're a
But the
producer.
I'm a producer, but the other thing that sometimes people don't believe when I tell them this is I'm definitely a learned extrovert. I'm an introvert at heart. And
I know Chandler just pointed at me too, and he was like, "That's you." That's
yeah, and then that like now I have zero problem doing whatever, going out there. But when I'm doing like, for example, a show or a pop-up where I'm interacting with a lot of people all day, and the end of the day, people say to me, let's go get a drink. I'm like, I am exhausted. That was a lot for me.
That's
Like,
right.
no offense,
To be
but I'm
on
gonna,
for, ugh,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? So like,
Oh, I
that's
do.
where it shows up. And so that's sometimes, but I say that because there are probably other people like that are introverts out there that
Yeah.
kind of think, oh, I could never do that. I could never just go on a podcast and just talk. Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Everyone can. Come
That's
on.
right.
Like,
We're
um,
both in examples of that because I am I call it, if you see me at an event, I'm usually the wall hugger. I'm sitting up against the wall. I'm like, I'm not, but I've had to teach myself I have figured out a way, like it's a game for me now I've got my 3 questions to engage, but I had to like teach myself to be comfortable in a room. This has been a good, like when I started the podcast a few years ago, this was kind of my way of breaking out of that and just talking with people. But yeah, that's I've never heard that term, a learned extrovert. I've always just said like,
yeah.
I'm an introvert, but I you kind of have to play a role. And my role is CEO or founder, and I've got to present this image out there. And but I've had to teach myself that. So I
Yeah.
like that the learned extrovert. Um, so yeah, I'm really interested in hearing kind of your answers to this, but because you've been a CEO of a large company, that has been a part of a larger conglomerate, and then you've started your own company and companies like these. What do you think are the biggest misperceptions or things that did you have any misperceptions when you were like, well, I'm already running this company and then starting your own? Were there anything that you're like, ooh, well, I had some misperceptions there. What would you say to that? Or are there myths that you hear from other people that you're like, let me just debunk that right now?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is that people, and now that I have this collective of, there's about 50 brands that are part of it, there is definitely this perception among, I would say, 45 of the 50 brands, where they're kind of like, I have an amazing product. I don't understand. Why isn't it selling? They don't understand the whole ecosystem that you have to build. They don't understand that it takes 10 to 12 touch points to convert
Right.
somebody. They don't get that you have to be doing social every day, that like all those things that like we know because we are in marketing and we know how
Right.
hard it is. It is crazy to me just how naive a lot of founders are
The
when they
grit, the
launch.
grind, and the hustle. Yeah.
And then the problem is they've already spent a ton of money making products, creating, getting to a point, and then they think that that should just do it. And they don't understand that no, you just like paid your admission ticket to be in the game.
That's a good.
Now you play the game, and that's a whole different level. And that requires a whole different skill set. And so um, I tend to be sometimes tough love on some of the founders where it's like, are you really, because they'll say to me, but how are you? I'm like, you have to do a lot.
Yeah.
And they go, but I'm like, there's no silver bullet. And they're like, but I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like, this is it. You want to be in this business, you got to be on Amazon. You got to have your own thing. You got to be in physical store. Like, this is the deal.
Right.
And so, yeah, that is a
You're
hard
crushing their
lesson.
dreams. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, no, I kind of am, but it's a hard lesson for
Yeah.
people because they're never going to be successful if they just sit back and think the business is going to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes to
And
those.
frankly, like, it's also like some people shouldn't be entrepreneurs. That's the other hard, cold truth. Not everybody's cut out to do it.
I mean, that's a good point. Like a lot of people think that they're not, and they shouldn't be. You're right. I
And they
mean,
shouldn't
that.
be. And so sometimes it's better to cut bait,
Yeah.
seriously, instead
Yeah.
of investing a couple years and a lot more money into something that's never going to pan out.
Right.
But people don't want to hear that, but a lot of, that is the truth for a lot of founders. And when you're in beauty, there's so many small
Right.
indie beauty brands. It's insane. And it's tough because unless you're somebody who has a lot of connections in investor world, but this is the thing too, there's a perception that if you get investment money, you're good. A bunch of the beauty brands that have closed in the last year or two were VC backed. Because the problem with that is they create this expectation of growth, and there is not a focus on profit, right? There's a focus on top line growth. It's not sustainable. And when you're in such a fickle industry where somebody might buy your product because you're kind of shoving it on them, they may not repeat purchase. So
Right.
small brands like us, we're very much focused on, I want to be profitable. I want people to love my products. I want to get repeat purchase. My products. And we have 3 times industry average loyalty. And that
Wow.
makes me super happy because even though hair care is a very tough category and very unloyal category, we do have more than our fair share. So that is, if you focus on those things and your current customers, you're going to be a healthier business, in my opinion.
Oh, that's
than,
great.
just chasing growth.
Yeah. So do you see, especially in the beauty industry, where you said that a lot of the failures are in the VC back. They're looking for just growth. Is it because they're looking for growth at a certain, like, you need to be a 10x or you need to be a 25x, and if you don't perform, we're just going to like shut you down?
There's a point where if you run out of runway and your numbers aren't there, they're not going to want to keep putting money in. And the VCs, it's a little bit of like playing poker, or not.
Right.
In a sense of, they have a lot of bets, is my point.
Right.
You're not the only horse they're betting on.
Right.
They, by nature, bet on 20 horses or 50 horses or 100 horses. And if they don't think that you're going to be the one to the finish line, and there's other horses that are faster than you, that's what happens. So so that's why, there's a lot of misconceptions around getting investor money and what that's going to do, because founders think, if I only had
Right.
$2 million, and it's like, yeah, but then you're expected to have 10 million in sales.
Right. Well, within a very short runway,
window.
and if you don't make it, they're either you're not going to get that money, continued, or you're going to be replaced. Like, we've seen that with a lot of founders of like,
Yes.
well, you know what? Now our board has now voted you out. We're going to put another CEO in place, and you're going to, pack your bags and oh, you're like, wait a minute, but I own this. No,
No, you don't.
you've handed
That
it over.
happens a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And so that's another thing. So it's not easy.
So how do you deal with stress and these big challenges? Like, do you have any tips and or any rituals or disciplines that you use to just deal with with the hits and the pivot, so you
Yeah.
can pivot?
I would say one of my biggest life hacks, which I'm going to share with you,
Yeah.
is home exchange.
What is that? Okay.
Okay. This is nothing to do with the entrepreneurship. I started doing this when I was at JWT, because we had a New York City apartment, and I have 2 dogs. And when we would travel, my dogs would have to go to the boarding place, and they hated it. They'd be mad. They would sulk for weeks. They would be so pissed at me afterwards. So I was like, there's got to be a better way. But we live in a condo where they don't allow you to Airbnb it or have other, so,
Yeah.
So I stumbled on home exchange, which, because there's no money exchanged, it doesn't break any laws, so you're all
Is this like the
good.
movie Holiday with
Kind of the Jude Law and
and Cameron Diaz?
It
Is that?
it is, but it is. But the thing is, there's a platform called Home Exchange, and you don't have to do literal exchanges at the same time. You can use points. It's all a point-based system. So so we're going to Bologna next week for 2 weeks, staying in someone's apartment. We were in Paris this summer. We were in Bordeaux this summer. We travel a ton, and it's all basically free. Obviously your airfare, your
Right.
food, whatever.
Oh my
but
God, I'm going to have to look this up.
I'm telling you, it is, because my thing is, now that I have flexibility, I was tied to the corporate world for a long time, and then I don't have the flexibility to do this. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. But if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sorry, like, you do not have to be sitting at home grinding away. I'd rather be sitting in an apartment in Bologna doing the
Right.
same thing that I'm doing here and doing this podcast. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? Like, there's no reason. So that is how I try to balance. I kind of blend, and I also blend my personal life and my work life completely. My brother does my fulfillment. He's unbelievable. So good. My daughter, incredible artist, does a lot of my graphics. My niece helps me with like operational stuff. Like, I wish my son can help me with the data, but he's not interested.
He'll come on board. Just let him get some street cred and some experience somewhere else, and then bring that over to you.
Yeah, maybe. It's my dream.
Yeah.
I'll put it out there.
If you could pick 2 things to change about your business today, what would those 2 things be?
To change about my business, I would say 2 things to change about my business. I don't really know if I would change anything about my business today. I mean, obviously, to be growing faster, to
Yeah.
be in bigger
More
distribution,
customers. Yeah.
to have more retail stores, all those things would be on the list. But I mean, our product, I'm always looking, okay, here's something. I'm always
Okay.
looking for more sustainable solutions because we are a brand that is sustainable. So here's our Shine Serum. We are pretty much almost out of these, but what I decided is, unfortunately, I did on our website, we've got our pretty much sold out, but I'm switching these to glass bottles. These are plastic right now.
Ah.
So that's going to take us a couple months to transition over. But I would love for better packaging solutions that work in the shower. Because as a brand that's in the shower, we've got our plastic bottles. I have big ceramic bottles.
Yeah.
But I wish there was some better solution that we could get rid of the plastic. And I've been looking and I just can't find anything that's going to work for
Sustainable.
us yet.
Well, and I guess margin and all, like part of your,
Yeah, but we're premium price, so I don't mind if it costs more. I'd rather do something good for the environment.
yeah.
It's just that a lot of the things that you read about, like bamboo or algae packaging, they can't really hold liquid
No.
like shampoo. They don't really work, aluminum in the shower, people don't love because it can, it starts to
Rust and get those
corrode.
rust stains. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of challenges with that. But some point somebody will figure it out, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, so if we met a year from now, Lynn, what would we be celebrating?
Well, a year from now, I will be 3 years from my finishing of cancer. I still have my port
Okay.
because my doctors don't want to take it out because of the kind of cancer I had has an 80% chance of coming back. But if you make it after 3 years,
years?
then your odds get way better. And then 5 years, that's a real celebration. But
Wow.
3 years is definitely a target that if I can get for another year and not have cancer coming back, I'll be very happy.
Okay, well, that's what we're going to celebrate. Next year, one more year, cancer free, 3 years running. That'll be good.
Yep.
So you've worked with a lot of founders, and I'm sure, and you've had a good career. What advice were you given that you really took to heart and kind of put it in to your practice, or that you share with other founders?
I would say don't sweat the small stuff, because there's going to be a lot of things that happen and some stuff is worthy of you freaking out about it and other stuff just isn't. So that would be something I would tell people, just, focus on the things that you really need to focus on. Don't,
Right.
Somebody puts a bad review, who cares?
Who cares? That's right. And I think it's kind of like the advice you gave at the beginning of, you can't control everything, but it's how you respond, how you kind of to gauge, don't get mad about everything. Shit's not going to go your way.
Exactly.
And you're just going to have to be ready for it, and let it roll off your back, right? The thick skin. Oh my God, Lynn, we could go on forever because I feel like I could learn a lot from you, and but we do need to wrap. And God, I've loved this conversation. Where can people get a hold of you, learn about your products, buy your products, and yeah, how do you want people to connect?
I'm easy to find. Love Masami hair everywhere. So that's, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. I'm missing something, but Threads, LinkedIn, whatever. And I'm on, if anyone has questions, I'll answer your DMs. If you have a question about entrepreneurship, if you have a question about hair, if you have a question about conscious beauty, just hit me up. Conscious Beauty Collective is on Instagram at Conscious Beauty Collective Shop. you can see all of our locations. We're in Brooklyn, Miami, we're in Knoxville, we're going to be in Newport. We're all over the place. We're in Palm Springs. So check us out there. And then I think if anybody wants to try my products, I can give you a discount code. Maybe we'll make one just for your podcast.
Yeah,
Hello
we will
Chaos.
share that. Absolutely.
Let's do Hello Chaos, and it'll be 20% off.
Perfect.
So, yeah, and then I love feedback, so don't hesitate to let me know, good or bad, what you think.
Perfect. Well, we'll tag everything and we'll make sure that we include all that information in our social promos, definitely. And thanks for hanging out with us, and for everybody listening or watching us, thanks for hanging with us today. And this podcast episode will be available on Sunday, I think this coming Sunday. So like us, comment, share, help us grow and build a more connected entrepreneurial and founder community. HelloCast is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That's Orange Whip WIP for work in progress, because that's what we all are. HelloCast is, Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We are in 3 cities in South Carolina today, looking to expand to other cities because every city needs an Orange Whip. It's just an email to join the community. We are a one-stop content hub in those cities just for founders in an innovative digital zine experience. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or support us in any way, send an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Thank you all for tuning in. This is where AHA meets Oh Shit. Welcome to Hello Chaos, and we will see you again next week.